and it's connecting the Zoom to YouTube, preparing to live stream. Looks like I'm losing my voice too. It's connecting the Zoom to YouTube. Okay, so we hear that. That's working fine. Put the link, copy the link, put it in my notepad. It looks good. And this content of this meeting is being sent to third party. It's okay. I'm also recording on my computer on premise, what we call it, and I'm using MSN Recorder, and I can see that as well. Okay, everybody's in front of a camera, lights on your face. And we're ready to begin. We have Ashton, Ethan, Cam, Arnav, and Connor waiting for your webcams. Okay. Do we have volunteers to moderate the chat today? Any volunteers? Okay. Nikita, you've graciously volunteered. Anyone else that would like to volunteer? Class participation. Robert, I see you first. So Robert Kim. So we have Robert Kim and we have Nikita. You know the drill. Let me know what is happening. So today is Monday. We're in September 16th, and we had some assignments where we talked about collaboration, how we document. So we know now that in the future, we're going to start with any projects that require any software and hardware. Our goal when we discover issues is to document those issues. Also, when we find ways in which to resolve problems, we document as well. When another student is having issues, just to say in this class, I couldn't get it to work, it's not enough because then we can't solve the problem. It needs to be documented. So we all know how to document. We went through doing Zoom and then also doing our own screencasting programs. We know the advantages and disadvantages. There were some questions people asked me before if their MP4 file was too large to upload to Blackboard. What should they do? Any ideas? You understand what the problem was, Aaron, that somebody told me?
Yeah, I did.
What, you want to repeat it so everyone else can hear it?
Yeah, so because the file was too big.
Mm-hmm. Too big for what?
For it to be processed by Blackboard.
Right. So the question is, how do you think they can resolve it? We don't have any ideas.
YouTube link?
One is a YouTube link. What else? But if we want to look the file. So if they have done a YouTube with that, they could do a YouTube link. But if they were doing on premise, they may not have connected to YouTube. What's another idea?
You could split the files.
Okay, Sienna, good. That you could also split maybe the files, do part 1, part 2. Any other ideas?
Compression?
Compression. So how could you, so what is that compression? We could do what? We could zip the file. We could even take something like QuickTime and open QuickTime and select the file and compress the file to what? A higher resolution or a lower resolution, Aaron?
Lower.
A lower resolution. So there are a number of ways. We could ask ChatGPT. We could ask other Gen AI. I have a large file. I'm using a Mac. I'm using a Windows. How can I compress the files? Okay. So always those ideas that we're thinking about is the ideas that you can do in, and then you would also do what, Sienna? You would also do, when you upload it, you could put a note there under the item description and discuss that this was too large for Blackboard. This is what the solution, breaking it into 2 files, part 1 or part 2, or otherwise compressing it with a compression program, and what compression program you used. Question. But these are the issues that we're always going to have. Okay, so let's do some housekeeping of what's due. Daniel, glad to have you back on board. You can also check on, we'll speak at the end. Anyone that has any issues that they want to discuss with me, let me know at the end of the class, and Daniel, I'll stay with you for a few minutes, okay?
Sure. And if anyone has any issues, they can also send me a chat.
Okay, and then you know that Daniel is direct. You can send even a direct chat to Daniel if you want to ask him on the progress. Okay, beautiful. Thank you, Daniel. We have a great 2 moderators here that will help us, in Nikita and Kim, Robert. Okay, let's go. So let me share my screen. And I got a lot of things here sharing. This is kind of interesting. Remind me to look at this. This looks like what? In this case, Sienna. This looks like what? Data, right? Do we remember we talked about data last time? And this looks like what? These are columns, right? This we could look like we could put it into a spreadsheet. This looks like columns, right? That we can do. And we talked about what last time? We talked about a primary key. You remember that term, Sienna?
Yes, sorry.
Right. So we talk about data, and we said that data was what? We talked about data and database
Yeah.
management systems.
It's everything. Like,
Pardon?
there's like a specific code for a certain like enterprise.
Right. So we talk about something called primary. We talk about what? We talk about, when we talked about database management systems, we talked about records. And we talked about fields. And we talked about primary key. And a record was what? In this database then here, a record, Luke, we talked about fields, which were columns. And records then would be what? If columns is what? In a table we have columns, and what else do we have, Luke?
Can you say that one more time?
Yeah, if I look at a table, I have columns, and they're called fields in a database. What is it called in this case? What else do I have in a database? Along with columns, what do I have?
You have rows.
I have rows. And we know it is rows. In a database term, records are rows. Fields are what, Luke? Columns. Sometimes in fields, we also call it attributes. And one of the attributes or fields is we talk about a primary key. And the idea of a primary key is to find a unique record. To locate a unique record. Or what? Row. So for instance, if I had, in this case, I have date, I have open, high, low, close, adjusted, close, and volume. Do you see that, Luke? Do you see that, Aaron? Yes, no?
Yes.
Good. So in this case, what then would be, is there a primary key here? Aaron? To find a
Yes.
unique record. What?
Yeah, there is.
Which one?
The MBLY.
Well, the MBLY, perfect. The MBLY is perfect because that's going to be unique to only, in this case, Mobileye. In the table itself, what's unique? Is there anything?
Nothing in the chats.
What's unique in this case, Aaron? In the table itself. Mobileye definitely would be unique because each symbol, right, in the stock exchange, we couldn't have two symbols with the same name. We couldn't have, basically, if I said first name Aaron, I could have a lot of people named Aaron. So Aaron wouldn't be a good name, wouldn't be good to have as unique. Here it would be what, Aaron?
Mobileye Global Inc.
Unique.
The MBLY would make it unique because tickers
I know
are...
the MBLY. I'm just talking about date, open, high,
Oh,
low,
yeah.
close.
I'd say the date.
The date, right? Because this is end of day data. So September 16th, you wouldn't say, right? September 16th, 2024. If I just said September 16th, Aaron, of course that wouldn't be unique because September 16th comes along many times. September 16th, 2024 comes along all the time. So if I were to give you this table, do you see that, Luke, and ask what is among this table? Of course, the MBLY is unique, but the table itself, what would be? The date would be unique. And many times in that uniqueness, then what are we doing based on what we can do is based on maybe the 16th, right? Which is today. Basically, we would want to forecast what? The future date. If we looked at if we looked at any type of chart, and I see that in one day this stock went up 3.7%. But what does it look like the trend is doing? Is the trend looking like, if it for 1 year, does the trend look, in this case, Aaron, looks like it's going down, or looks like it's going up for this stock?
Down.
Down, right?
Like fluctuating,
It looks like
but down.
even when I look at for year to date, how much has this stock gone down? 70%. Doesn't look like this was and this stock years ago was this stock turns out to be is a stock that does autonomous vehicles. It does basically ways in which it can be put into cars. So if I look at year to date, but then look at this one date, the question is, it looks like a little bit it went up, but the question is what's going to do tomorrow, what's it going to do in the short run, and what's it going to do further down? And then we have two basically indicators here that if I look at it, one is a moving average that basically smooths out my data. I have two moving average. One is 25. Every 25 days, I take an average. And the other one is in 10 days, every 10 days, I take an average. And basically, when they talk about technical analysis, it looks like when my red line, which is my fast, because it goes up fast, when it crosses over my blue line, basically in some technical theories, it says to buy the stock. And you can see almost maybe that's right, because it seems like it's really going up. And then when my fast crosses below my slow, it seems like that's an indicator that it's overbought, that maybe in the future we should sell it, or sometimes they call it the word short. So in that case, have you ever heard Dylan, of the word short? A short sell? Dylan?
Yeah, a short sell.
Yeah, so
It's
I
just
can
when you're
buy
going against the
I can
market.
buy a equity, right? I can buy, I can sell, and I can do something that says short. And what does that mean? Did you hear about it, Dylan?
Yeah, it's just when you go and bet against the stock. You think
Yeah,
so you think it's going to go
you're
down.
basically betting, right? Dylan, you're betting that the trend is down, right? You're betting that the price will go down. So basically, in terms of trading, people make money in terms of basically, in this case, if you went long, if you bought the stock, let's say right here, and you said, you know, we're just going to keep it, what will we keep on doing? Then Dylan is what? In the long run, is basically lose about 70% of our money, right? We could have just put it into the bank, right? We could have done better. But basically, it can be in the terms of what is our trading process. So basically, underneath these are in the data is algorithms. So Dylan, what we're going to be doing in the class for our next project is looking at software that will basically have built-in algorithms to basically tell us when to enter a trade, when to exit a trade, when to short a stock, and when to just not get in. Those are what they call algorithms, right? Instructions to the computer. And guess what's going to help us, Dylan, is basically AI, generative AI that basically, and machine learning that will learn what? The patterns of certain equities or other types of instruments and allow us to do it. So we'll be looking that based on data. Have you ever traded, Dylan?
Yeah, I have.
Okay, are you doing it now?
Yeah.
What are you trading?
Long-term ETFs.
Okay. And what platform are you using?
Use Interactive Brokers.
Okay. And you just kind of like are betting? Are you going in on any kind of trading strategy or just on guesswork or what?
No, I usually just talk with my dad and we kind of come up with a strategy together.
Okay.
No algorithm though.
Okay. Good. Okay. So you can be one of our key players in the next exercise. Okay. So we'll see what we'll do. It's good. All right. Anything else that I need? Okay, so with this one that we had done before that we can kind of see, and in historical data, what I like about historical data that we talk about when we talk about data, we talk about huge amounts of data that's varied. And no better way to look at it and bring it to life is using the stock market. And there's a lot of data that's involved that we can download for free. Okay. So let's go. And we see here that we are in YouTube. That's great. And let's do a couple of housekeeping chores till we get to the other part. So we said in the what's due section, so everybody turn to the what's due section. In the what's due section, let me turn my edit mode off so I see what you're seeing. We see today is the 16th before the class. We see that the screen recording assignments were due, parts 1 and 2. One was for individual, one was for group. We see the readings of chapter 5, which is data and knowledge management. You need to do the adaptive assignments and the quizzes for chapter 5. And then we need for next Monday before class, and these are all before class, we see that we're going to be looking at information security. So based on that, let me go to the Wiley Reading and Adaptive, Information Security. Make sure the adaptive assignment is on. And we know that we have one due date, and that's Monday, September 23rd. So next Monday, that should be done. So you'll have that available to you. Under the Wiley quizzes, chapter 4, let me make sure, cancel, I want to make sure that I want to be in edit mode on. I want to edit the test options. Make it available, make a new announcement. Daniel, let's always add a new announcement anyways. It never hurts, right?
Okay.
And then have it for display after.
Yeah, I
which
already
is
added to those.
perfect. And due date is perfect. And including test scores, we check each other's work and submit. And we know that that is done. Perfect. Thank you. That we have this part. Let me turn this off, that I know my edit mode. I have this, and then I know that I have my Wiley quizzes in this. Questions? Next, I have my PowerPoints. We have a couple of PowerPoints. One is on, and the Wiley Plus is on the chapter. We want to make sure that we have the PowerPoints. I want to continue with data knowledge management. And on Wednesday, we'll go over automated trading systems. We'll begin that talking about algorithms and automated trading systems. So let's make sure that we have the data here, the PowerPoint, and that should be available to us, right? So we have that available, which is good. And the other part is the Wiley adaptive quizzes. We should have knowledge management. And for instance, managing data, you should be able to see the managing data here. Just do this. Let me do it from resources. Sometimes if it's not working, the correct one, go to the Wiley Plus resources and click on the chapter 5. And let's just click on managing data. Let's see if that comes up. And it looks like it comes up, right? Eduardo, you see my managing data? Eduardo? Yes? And then they talk about, we got a lot of data and we talked about the difficulties of managing data. What is it that we got so much historical data? It's that's basically why we're using generative AI, is that it basically is able to go through so much data and for the organizations and try to make some sense out of it. So this is important. And basically you can think about it is, when I think about Eduardo data, it says which of the following data sources can be classified as data streams. Those streams means that I get streams of data coming in that I can collect. So what would be the streams of data that could come in that it could be collected? What do you think the best answer is in this case, Eduardo?
Point of
Corporate
sale data.
databases, government reports, point of sales data, or company documents. What are the key for this question is streams. Eduardo.
I'll go with point of sale data.
Point of sale, why?
It just sounds like the one that has
Well,
like a
basically, what is
consistent
point of
flow of
sales
data coming
data?
in.
Point of sales data, when I go to Publix or I go to CVS, right? What happens is a lot of times in CVS, I don't even have a cashier, right? Have you ever gone and what do? You take an item and you scan it. That is at the point of sale. They're basically at the time they're making the sale, there's already transaction data coming through. And basically you can think about it, JC, is that point of sales data means there's streams of data coming through. It's the same thing in the stock market, right? JC, do you think we were looking just now at that stock market at the end of day, but how often does the data come through? It's coming through what? Not even minute by minute, even less than second by second, tick by tick. That's streams of data. So if I submit that answer, then I see that that's the correct answer. Now, I have Daniel, I spoke to Wiley Plus. And do some of the students here have problems in the textbook? Check your understanding. It was not coming up right. So I'll send you, Daniel, there's instructions. We'll post the instructions where you have the Wiley Plus representative gives instructions that you need to clear out your cache and give permission for a lot of these browsers to accept Wiley Plus.
Okay.
It's not so bad if you don't. There's a few questions. You can look at other questions, other places, but I just wanted to show you that we have it. Then we talked about data governance. You remember that, Amanda? Does that come clear to you a little bit? That we basically, somebody has to take care of, even in the university, all the data is collected. Which data is going to be collected? Somebody has to take care, or a group of people have to have an approach in which who's going to manage that data? Who knows if that data is basically correct? Your address, your GPA. All of a sudden I can put in a grade and I made a mistake, right? You need to check that, right? And then all of a sudden says that you got a C in the class, and what happened is the data was basically you got an A+, right, Amanda? You know that would be more applicable. And then in data governance, you have to have a group of people in an organization to be what they call the owners of the data. And in this case, one of the strategies for data governance is what they call master data management. And that basically is a way to maintain what are we going to keep in our database, what fields, what column fields are we going to keep. So basically we want what they call a single version of the truth. What does that mean? Why a single version? Because it basically, you remember, Elena, we were talking about the idea if you moved, we had two addresses. We don't know if that's an old address or a new address. So we need to make sure that we have a single version of the truth. And the master data then are a set of core data that's going to be customer, product, employer, vendor, geographic location. For our stock data, it would be what? It would be symbol, the stock symbol, the date, the open, the close. And transactional data are by describing each transaction. So if I go to CVS and I buy one bottle of shampoo, that's a transaction. And I can have many transactions. If I go to Amazon, I can look at my orders. I can look at my list. Those are transaction data. So the master data, think about the master data are basically, think about it, it's like the titles of my column headings. Transactional data are the details. I bought shampoo, $3.99, this date, this time. So this is the key here. So this is what they're talking about, data governance. So if I looked at this case, JC, where it says, which of the following are examples of master data? Would it be business transaction, customer, product, employee, vendor, geographic location, C, business reports, or business strategy documents? So what do you think it would be, JC, along to what we were talking about? What would look like master, like the column headings?
Would it be B?
It would be B. Everything's simple when we know it, right, JC? So it's the idea, but I want you to understand it, just not to memorize it, right? But to understand who cares. So the idea is customer, right? The product, the employee, and probably in this case, vendor, I probably have to have some kind of unique key, like a customer ID, right? Or a C number, right? So Elena, if I ask the primary key here, it would be the, so in this case, it would be this, the student ID plus all the others. So basically you can see that you can go through that for all the data. So if the same thing that I went from before, let me just go back up here. That we talked about before. Let me just make this. Make this a slideshow so we can see it. So we talked about the last time we talked about, since we have so much data, think about it. Just like we have to manage people, we have to manage data. And you can think about it just as we need to manage data and we need to govern data, we're going to have to do with AI, we're going to have also AI governance. So in that case, then, Julian, just like I say, I have to govern my data, I have to govern my AI too. It's basically saying, hey, what are going to be the rules, the policies of what we're going to do with Gen AI, just like what we're going to do with this. We talked about managing the data, what were the difficulties in it? And we talk about it comes from multiple sources. So my data can be, I can look at my competitors. I can look at other universities that I think are my peers. I can look at local universities to see how I'm doing. I can look at national universities. I can look at international universities. I can get personal sources. So for in this case, if we're talking about the stock market, we can think about corporate databases with my companies. I can think about what analysts are thinking about my companies. I can think about external sources. And I can think about that clickstream data, that I can get data feeds. I can get data feeds at the end of the data. I can get data feeds that are short term. I can get data feeds that are minute by minute, every 5 minutes, or by click. Once I get it, that data governance becomes what is the approach to manage your data. Who in the university manages our data? And probably in each department, there's somebody managing the data, and there's a whole group that manages all the data. And that we know the difference then between master data, which is more of which type of fields are we going to collect. And we know in the database approach, we talked about it last time, that the data hierarchy we can think about is like a spreadsheet or a table. The rows, if it's a student one, the columns are the field, like last name, first name, test 1, test 2. And we talked about why do we need to minimize this? Data redundancy. What does data redundancy mean in this case? Julian, what does the word data redundancy mean? What do you think?
Can you hear me? Sorry.
Yes. Can you hear
So
me?
it's like, yes, if we have like the same data in different systems or different places, but it's the
Right.
same data.
Right, like your address, right? Well, do I need it 20 different times? There are 20 different departments that use it. But do we need to reduce it? So we want to reduce, we want to minimize it. And what in this case, Robert, Kim, is the idea that it says data isolations. Why do we want to minimize data isolation?
Why do we want to minimize data isolation?
Yeah, what does data isolation means? It means, are you in any groups, Robert?
What do you mean
Or
groups?
what
Like,
major are you?
I'm finance.
You're finance. Are you only a finance major?
Yeah.
And do you
I'm finance
participate
and
in any
global
activities
business.
other than you're a finance major?
Scholars of finance.
You
Yes.
what?
In scholars of finance or rugby.
A rugby. Okay, you're on the rugby team, or you just play rugby, or what do? You play intercollegial?
No, it's club sport here.
A club sport. Okay. Where's that? Do you think the School of Business knows that? That data is isolated from the School of Business. It's also isolated from me, right? And if I
Yeah.
wanted to say, hey, we should get something, somebody's giving me a job offer and they say, it's somebody that's done some kind of sports, either rugby or soccer, that's really interested in it. There would be if that data is isolated just by your club, that's what data isolation means. That others in the organization can't share it. Do you see why we want to minimize that data isolation? That it's just that one department or a few people in the university know that Robert Kim is involved with rugby. And there may be a use for it. Somebody wants to give a scholarship. Somebody wants to give an internship. Somebody wants to be with finance. And data inconsistency. So Ethan, John, why do we want to minimize data inconsistency? Ethan, John, do you hear me?
Yeah.
Why do we want to minimize data inconsistency?
To have less problems.
What does data inconsistency mean? Is it one truth? Data inconsistency means your address in one place may be not the same in another place, right? That's data inconsistency. And what do we want to maximize? Data security. In a database, Sienna, what are we trying to do? We're trying to put our data in one area. So if we're putting it in one area, what does that mean? That one area is going to be more secure or less secure? Somebody can break in if all my jewels are in one room, right? All they'll try to do is break into that one room, just like in a database. So we want to maximize data security. And we want data integrity, Sienna, that integrity means that I trust the data is accurate. We want to maximize that. And data independence means that data isn't just on one application. We can use that data in many applications. And we want to share the data then with many apps. We want to maximize that part. Make sense, Sienna? Good. So we talked about database management systems. We have different departments here at the university. It could be the registrar's office, the accounting department, athletics. It has all its data, and basically they put it in a database management systems so they can use it for many apps. So we have, for instance, CaneLink, right? We can have all our courses. We can have it student registration, right? We can have athletic teams. They all can they can share some of that data. That's called database management systems. So we talk about the data hierarchy. We talked about it last time. The bit is a 0 or 1. A byte is one character. So if I say Sienna S is a byte. And a field could be what? It's an attribute or a column. So in a student database, it could be a C number. It could be last name, first name. In my database management system, it could be on my grades, right? So it'd be test 1, test 2, homework 1, homework 2. And the data file or a table is like what we consider a sheet in a spreadsheet. And the database are a number of tables that are related to each other. And they can be related And what's important in that fields is that I have unique keys. We went over that. So what I have here is the hierarchy of data. The lowest end is a bit, which I don't even see. The bytes I don't care about, but I see the fields, the record, and the file. And then the university databases, I can have a student database, I can have a faculty database. They can be, part of it can be interchanged, right? By faculty. I'm a faculty as the courses you're taking. You're part of my databases, you're the students of mine. So the key terms you need to know here is that idea of a database management system. And we talked about it. An attribute is just like a field, and a primary key is unique. And we talked about the student database, and we talk about it right here, and we'll just review it in this case. And if I just review it, what do I get? Dylan, so what is my primary key right here? Dylan, what field is my primary key?
Is it the student name?
What? What, Dylan?
Is it the student name?
What's the definition of primary key? That it's unique. That I always can find it. So could it possibly be I could have, in this case, there's nobody that is a duplicate name, but could there be duplicate names in a possibility?
Yeah, so it would be the student ID number.
Yes, you know it. So if I said primary key, Nikita, if I said primary key, you would know. And I said, what do you think it is, student name or student ID? You would know for sure it would be what? Student ID.
That'd be student ID.
Right, because it's unique. I can find that record. And what is in our case, they give a C number. So basically, we got to think about also big data, that whole idea of big data, managing big data, bringing into use. This is where generative AI comes into being. This is where big learning comes into being. This is where machine learning comes into a way, finding patterns in large amounts of data to make better decisions. And there's descriptions. One description of big data is that it's diverse, it's high volume. What's better high volume in this case, Dylan, is what? Is the stock market. When it comes into high volume, I can blink my eyes and I can get thousands and thousands of high volume data. High velocity comes in speeds, and it requires processing that enables some kind of insight, some type of optimization. That variety and can be captured and transformed, analyzed in a reasonable amount of time. This is where the key is. Having data is easy now. You can buy it, you can get it for free. Making sense of it, that's the difficulty. And that's why people are excited about that artificial intelligence, that Gen AI, machine learning, is have the machine start looking at patterns that it would be impossible for us to see. Manufacturing of certain drugs, the genomes, all of that is really difficult. So this makes up, you can think about it, even social media, find me the trends, find me the sentiment, all done with billions and trillions of data. When I think about all the security, you know what happened before, of all the security that's now being done, medical scanning, all of that's being done via artificial intelligence. So these are the characteristics. It has to have volume, and it has to go fast, and it has to have a variety. What are issues? Just like issues of database, you need to know what are the issues. I don't know if I can trust that data. Here's another one that says the big data is dirty. What does that mean? That it may not be accurate. Even sometimes you'll see there's inaccuracy on the data, and it goes and it proceeds down the line, and we think that it's accurate. And it changes that data so quickly in what we call data streams. So what do we want to do a lot of times is clean my data. They call it dirty. Dirty basically means it's not accurate. So put in your notes here, big data that's dirty, it means it may not be accurate. It may be missing some fields. It may not have been updated in time. And managing it, basically, we do it in traditional relational databases. There's something called NoSQL, which is for large databases. And also there's now, what are we trying to do is we don't even have numeric data, but we have images. I have to find somebody. I have to see whether even now what is the problem? You say, is this a fake video or a non-fake video? Is this accurate data or are they putting it in? You see this all the time, right? In social media, is that looks good. We couldn't even tell. You remember we went through that? We couldn't even tell, putting that data into the processing of what we have. Now, what we usually have, put this in your notes, we have something called transactional data. Transactional data means the data coming through the stream. But after the data, you can think about a data warehouse. Put that in your notes then, Jasper, is a data warehouse as we're talking about historical data. Historical data could be a minute ago or it could be a year ago, but it's historical. So basically, your grades in the past could be in a data warehouse, and then we could use the difference between a data warehouse and a data mart is a data mart is smaller. It's like for a project of what I have in a data warehouse. So a data warehouse, what are we thinking about? It's where historical data is stored. It's organized by subject, so I can get to it and make sense of the data. A data mart is basically, think about it as like a small project, like a campaign. So there could be a student warehouse, a student data warehouse, or there could be then a warehouse of my stock databases. And there could be, we have one idea, one hypothesis, one problem that we're going to try to solve. So we may have a data mart looking at autonomous vehicles, those basically vendors, and trying to see is, for instance, LiDAR technology, is LiDAR technology the way in which we can see the grounds, predict whether we're going to see people going past us, whether that is the future, or are they using other types of just cameras? So we could do a low-cost, scaled-down version of our data mart. And what are the ideas? Is my data mart then, in a way, is non-volatile. And if I think about that, Samuel Thomas, non-volatile means what? That it stays or it disappears? Non-volatile.
It stays.
It stays. Just like you remember we talked about RAM and secondary storage, that primary storage RAM was volatile, the other was non-volatile. So put in your notes here, non-volatile, it means that it remains. So those are the basics of those warehouses. And what do we need to do with those warehouses? It's data, so we need data governance. We got to make sure that the quality is there. How are we going to store it? In order for us to make decisions about our historical area. What should we buy? What should we sell in the future? It's historical. And that's what we're going to be doing in the next couple of weeks with you, looking at historical data in order to forecast what's going to be in the future. Do we know what's in the future? Of course not. But what are we trying to do? We're trying to reduce our errors that we're more accurate. So right here, Arnav, did you see this diagram right here in front of you? Good. This is a little bit confusing for you, and I'm going to try to make sense out of it. First of all, this is called a data warehouse framework. And this is what you need to know. These are symbols of data. the way that they show database. And this, think about this, Rhett. Anything in like this cylinder, you see that, Rhett? Anything in that cylinder. Here's a cylinder. This green one's a cylinder. These blue ones are cylinders. All these cylinders are databases. You got it, Rhett? Red King, you got it? So anything, the way that they draw these, it sounds too confusing, but this is my source. This is from my point of sale. This is from my enterprise. These are from legacy, meaning my old time. These are from my transactions. And this is from external documents. These were all sitting in a database. And what do I want at the end is I have some kind of hypothesis and I want to use this data and get other systems to help me use these data so I can do a forecast. So what they call here, right here, is extraction, transformation, and load. That means this data could possibly not be in the right format. I have to get it in the right format. And in this case, metadata is almost like we talk about our master data. Data, put in your notes here, metadata is what describes the data. And then I put all of this in what we call an enterprise. What's an enterprise, Emilio? You remember what the word enterprise sounds like?
Yeah, it's like a business or a firm.
It's a business. A large organization has a data warehouse. So you can think about our university has a data warehouse. Many of our students, right? Students in the business school maybe versus students in the pre-med, students in the medical school versus students that are in the law school. They all have enterprise data warehouse, and then they have different, and these data marts, you see that? In this case, Emilio, the data mart is also a cylinder, but they make it smaller than this enterprise, meaning this is a subset of the enterprise. So I have maybe marketing, I want to say, try to figure out what type of students should I, based on the graduation rates, and we did some surveys on students on how happy they were. I want to see what type of characteristics of students can we market to that would be successful and love coming to the university. Or it could be, we could look on data, looking on the historical data and see which type of industries do we think that will have the trend going up, or which have the trend going down that we can short. Or is it going to be housing? Is it going to be healthcare? Then we can do, all of these departments can do individual data marts. There's some kind of software that is processing it, and then we get outputs. What's missing here is within these, all these areas, let me just go up here, within all these areas, there is machine learning that can be processed with it. It can be remote access. It can be generative AI to look for patterns in the data to fulfill my hypotheses. And I wouldn't, and then this is just about data links you don't have to worry about. And that's the SQL stands for structured query, query by example. This entity relationship, I'm not going to go over. You don't need to know. Okay. So if I were asking you, Sebastian, the difference between transactional data and a data warehouse, you would say what? Sebastian, do you hear me?
No, sorry, you were cutting off. Can you repeat that?
Yes. If I asked the question on an exam, for instance, what's the difference between transactional data and a data warehouse?
Transactional data is like day-to-day and data warehouse is just the summary?
Historical.
Yeah.
Not there. So it's historical. So the transactional data I'll need in my inventory, right?
Yeah.
If I go and buy a car, I want that inventory list to be what? To be real time. If I go now, let's say, hey, I heard we can take a good cruise together, right? And have some fun. Why don't we do this? I've done it before, is I've had conferences where I had on a cruise. Maybe the next one we should meet on a cruise, right? And do like a 1 week, we'll be able to have a number of guest speakers who doesn't want to come on a cruise, right? We're in Miami, we don't have to go far, and we'll take a cruise together. If we ended up doing the cruise, we go ahead and book that cruise. That booking of that cruise should be transactional, or it should be in the data warehouse where we want to basically book the cruise. Sebastian.
For the cruise, we'd use
Transactional, real time, right? We want real time. But what we want to do is maybe Carnival Cruise Line or Caribbean or one of the others may look in their transactional and say, hey, maybe we should sell to university short cruises where they can take their students and guest speakers on a cruise, and we can sell more. That would be historical. How did it go with Dr. Rush's cruises before? Did everybody enjoy when she was at the bar? We'll take the bar. That's what we did one time, is we took the bar during the day. It was closed, or the nightclub, and we had classes in it, right? So then we used to have classes, and then we used to eat together and then have fun later on. So the question is was that successful, or were the students just so drunk by the time they got to class that it was really, and she was out of it too. So there wasn't but everybody had a good time. But we could kind of say that data mart is maybe that's what we'll do. We used to have a program, Sebastian, in the Bahamas. I used to go for 6 weekends. I used to teach an MBA in the Bahamas. And you thought, hey, I'll sign up for that. I'm for it. Expense paid, right? Every week I could go. I got in the best hotels. I went to Paradise. I said, I don't even want to be in the regular Bahamas. I'll stay at Paradise Island, right? They gave me a certain fee. I'll spend it. And then I went to a French restaurant. After 3 weeks, I was already tired. And, after 2 years, they used everybody that was in the Bahamas to get an MBA. So it kind of shriveled down, right? But maybe now it's a good time to look at it. Or maybe now it's a good time to go to other places in the world. So what would we do? We do what? Basically, our data warehouse and our data mart would be looking at a specific, you see that, Sebastian? Somebody come up on the idea, should the university now do short MBAs or short courses in the Bahamas? Or in terms of crypto, maybe there's going to be that, or offshore taxes. Maybe we'll go to offshore countries and see how it is in offshore setting up companies. Continuing studies. All of that is what, Sebastian? Data warehouse. Using the data we have, and we can get it from different sources. See how other universities, now a lot of universities are coming to Miami. They say, hey, we'll give courses in Miami, right? Everybody loves Miami. It's hip, it's good. So we're competing with those people too. Should we do more online? Should we do more hybrid? All those questions, data, Sebastian, are looking at that. So that's what I wanted to come to real. And this Wednesday, what I want to do is we'll start thinking about a project, right? That what can we do? Start looking at data. We want to look at big data. We want to make it live. We want to look at algorithms. We want to think about how do you write an algorithm. Doing all of that, we're going to take some projects that we'll be able to connect to a server, and we'll see what are the issues there. So, Sebastian, you think we're going to have issues? Of course we will. We'll always have issues. We'll all have issues. A lot of things are not under our control, but what will we do? We'll be able to document it, right, Sebastian? That's the key. And we'll have a good attitude about it, and we'll start early, and we'll get help from our friends and from others. And then even if our whole group has problems, we'll deal with it. That's how the class is. Any questions that I need to do? Anything in the chat?
Yeah, a while ago, Dominic said, do you know the company NVIDIA?
NVIDIA. Do I know it? Meaning,
Yeah, it
do I
says, do you
the
know?
name or do I know the people?
It just says, do you know the company?
Yeah, NVIDIA has done very well. I know them quite not intimately. Let's not go overboard, right? But I know that I've met with their folks. I've gone to their conferences, and basically, what are they producing? Is you remember we talked about it, Nikita? Who asked that question? Dominique?
Me, yeah.
Yeah, why did you ask that question, Dominique?
Oh, well, we were just talking about like AI stocks, so I was just
Yeah,
wondering.
right. And they went up like crazy. They were the first one. They didn't go down 70%. Now they're having a little bit of tumble, saying, hey, is it going overboard? Because it's like, how much can you sell? But yes,
Do you believe it is?
we'll guess what, Dominique? That'll be one of the stocks that you can take and we can analyze it. And the question is, what is short term and what is longer term, right? The question is, are we forecasting next day's price, or are we forecasting 3 months away? Do you think that AI is just a fad, or is it really there? But they've been the leaders, and are there other competitors? That's one of the things that Intel has done so poorly. If you looked at the year-to-date of Intel, they have done poorly because they haven't kept up with NVIDIA. AMD is another chip stock that they're trying to get into that space. And what is that space? Remember we talked about CPUs? They're kind of like doing those GPUs. What was that? Graphical processor. Basically in that graphical processing, they're basically, think about it as that neural processing. So they're making these big data centers using, and there's another issue there. What? So much electricity, so much energy that's going to be produced. How are they going to basically, think about climate change and other things? So it's more complicated than just what do I think about it. But yes, they've done quite successfully, and they probably will in the future do well. But it's a question of those couple of months how they will do. But if I had to bet without looking at anything, I would say in the future they are probably, they'll also probably purchase some other companies as well. They have so much cash, but they've done well. And if you looked a couple of years ago, they weren't doing so well. So here's a guy from Taiwan, and that's where he's getting all the production of all of his chips too. So why did Intel go up today, Dominique? Is because they got some grants and some money to do some chips here in the United States. Because what are we lacking here in the United States is we've allocated to the rest of the world to do chips.
But didn't we do the same to NVIDIA? Didn't we do the same to NVIDIA? Like, didn't they get a grant?
Yeah. So you have to look, what did they do too? You know what I mean? But of producing it, what did the United States want? Is them producing in Arizona or other places. So that's one of the things. You remember we talked about external news. That's going to be part of what do we want the generative AI to take into account? The sentiment of what the marketplace is, also what's news, right? That can affect. There's so many things. And how can we as human beings just keep up with everything? What your role a lot of times, Dominic, will be is to manage all of those systems and say, hey, wait a minute, I just saw something in the news or something happened, or make sure that it works, or we're going to have to change our algorithm. That's the thing. Those ideas, just to tell you, quant programming that writes those algorithms, Dominique, starting salaries, there's over 250K. Starting salaries plus bonuses. If you got a really great algorithm, Dominique, You get it. If
Anything
you got a really
by
poor one, we take you out. But anyways, it's an area, but you don't have to write the algorithms now. What's happening now? More and more the systems are writing the algorithm, but you can have inferior systems too. You
So
know,
they-
and that's
anything
the whole
by-
idea is all these systems here. And then what you'll see is sometimes you'll see the market going down quite precipitously. And that's because all those bots, basically 99% of the programs that are doing these stocks are not done by people, they're being done by programs. And what happens is they all almost have similar algorithms. So when they go down, everybody goes down, or when they go up. So these are areas that are tough. It's a tough market, but it's kind of interesting to get a hold of it. Okay. So guys, anything else I need to do? Thank you, Nikita, for letting me know about it. Daniel,
There's nothing
anything
else in the
else?
chat.
Nope.
Okay, so we're ready. We're going to be doing the next fun project, right? Every week is another project to do, but we get our hands wet because it's boring just to read those. What do you think, Sebastian? I would fall asleep just if all I had to do was read all those slides and all that text. The idea is to make it to come to life, right? Let's have some skills where somebody can say to ourselves, hey, if I can make money, that's great. And even if I can't make money, if I lose, we're not going to be using real money. So don't worry about it. Your parents can sleep, and I don't have to sleep under a bridge. Okay, so we're going to be just using simulations. Okay, so let me now share my screen. Let's take what do I want to do? I want to do attendance, right? Attendance. You guys all see it, right? I want to check in, check in, start checking. Stay with me if you have questions. Otherwise, I'll see you in a couple of days and we'll start looking at data.
Thank you.
My pleasure. And thank my moderators. Thank you. And Daniel as well.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else? Casey, did you log in? Everything work out all right? Okay. Samuel, everything work out okay?
Yeah, my logout was, or my attendance is fine, but I just had a question. You got my email, right? I assume, about how my file was too big.
Yes. So did you hear what I said?
I just looked at it. It said compress out. Yeah, I don't really know how to do that.
Okay. Do you? Yeah, okay. Yeah. Reach out to Aaron. You want to help us, Sam? Or you can use a compression. You can use something even like you have Mac or Windows.
Mac.
Mac. Even you can use QuickTime. Have you ever used QuickTime?
No. Right here, I'll look
Okay, so basically you can use QuickTime and just load QuickTime. Find QuickTime on your computer and load QuickTime, and just reduce the resolution. Daniel or Aaron, which of you want to work with Sam offline and help him with that? He basically, his idea is his MP4 file was too large to upload.
How large was it?
I have no idea, but it was over 500 something, and that's what.
How many minutes did you do?
I think it was like 5 minutes.
Really? And what program did you use?
It's called Wondershare.
Never heard of it. Okay. So you can you set up a time, Daniel, with him?
I could. Yeah, I think it might be something like I just sent him a link.
Okay. You may have had problems just one time of uploading. Let him send you the file.
Here, I'll send it to you. This thing can to up to a gig.
But I wanted just to upload to Blackboard.
Yeah, of course. So he just inputs this in here and then changes the target size percentage, and it'll work.
Or you can use them and look
Yeah,
at it, see if
just one of
it's
the.
interesting.
I
Right.
think Blackboard is 200 megs, or it might be 400 megs. Let me see.
Yeah, I don't know. They changed it sometimes in Ultra.
I ran into this issue last semester as well.
Yeah. I just compressed it with zip. You know. But you can do that. Sasha, you have a question? Or they just left it on? Aaron, you have a question?
Okay, it's compressing right now. Thank you.
Okay.
Of course. And if the
Perfect.
size is still too large, just keep compressing.
Okay, all right, sounds good. Okay.
Okay, that's right. Thanks for reaching out, Samuel.
Yep, have a good day.
Okay, ciao. Sasha, you there?
Yeah, can you just tell me the code again?
Daniel, you want to just put her in the
Yeah, sure.
Sasha, Daniel will just update
Sasha,
your
yeah.
attendance.
Oh,
Okay?
thank you so much.
Done.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Aaron, you have a question? Let me stop sharing. Let me